Hi, I'm Chrane. So, BlizzCon 2015 is over, and Diablo was sidelined hard. But don't worry, I got you covered. Let's talk about Diablo 3. 20 years have passed since the events of Diablo 2, and the destruction of Mount Ariat, and life in Sanctuary was relatively peaceful. When Tyrael destroyed the Worldstone, he was certain its destruction was for the better for all life in Sanctuary. But he knew that once the Worldstone was destroyed, Sanctuary would no longer be hidden from heaven and hell, giving both sides free reign. But nothing happened after its destruction. No angels, no demons. Sanctuary knew peace. For a time. For the last 20 years, Deckard Cain had been taking care of his niece, Leah. However, Leah is not really his niece. She's the daughter of Adria, the witch who came to Tristram soon before Diablo awoke beneath the cathedral and the warrior later defeated him. Deckard Cain and Leah traveled a lot, because of Deckard's fascination with the great evils and the feud between heaven and hell. He believed that, since the Worldstone was gone, Belial and Asmodan would act on it and invade Sanctuary. But Leah never believed any of his stories. To her, he was an old man who simply loved to tell a tale. Because, to her, that's all they were. Tales and stories. Many years of travel brought them back to where everything started, Tristram. They settled down in a town close to Old Tristram, known as New Tristram. Very original. The difference being that New Tristram was newly built and wasn't burnt to the ground. Deckard and Leah went to the old cathedral, where Diablo's Soulstone once lay buried. And there Deckard studied more of the old texts he had collected when all of a sudden a falling star crushed through the roof of the cathedral and pulled Deckard with it deep down into the cathedral. And after the falling star hit the cathedral, the dead started rising from their graves. Leah returned to New Tristram, fearing Deckard was dead and gone. She blamed it all on his fixation with his old stories, and now he was gone, and there was nothing she could do about it. Or so she thought. A group of adventurers arrived in New Tristram after having seen the falling star. There was a barbarian, but not the same one who defeated the primevals. This one was simply a survivor of Ariat's destruction. There was a monk known as Karazim, a wizard known as Li Ming, apprentice of Isandra, the sorceress who fought the primevals, a witch doctor, whose name is rumored to have been Azebo, a demon hunter known as Vala, and finally 2 crusaders, arriving at the same time. One male, whose name is currently unknown, and one female, known as Anagen. However, since this is a story, we cannot be sure that this is 100% accurate as for the genders and the names. There are also rumors of there being more adventurers that arrived that day. Maybe a female barbarian? A male demon hunter? Or who knows, maybe something completely different. They arrive in New Tristram and meet with Leah. She tells them of how Deckard Cain was pulled into the depths of the cathedral, and the adventurers assure her that they will find him. They enter the cathedral and quickly find Deckard, running away from skeletons, and that's when they see him. The spirit of the Skeleton King, King Leoric.
Foul minions, stay back! Back! May this ledge hold. The Skeleton King?
The power of the fallen star awakened me, and soon all will suffer as I have suffered. Gods, bring me his bones!
He has returned, and threatens Tristram once again. Deckard returns to Tristram, safe and sound, but the adventurers still do not know what the falling star is and why it fell from the sky. Deckard tells the adventurers to seek out the town's blacksmith, Adrig, as he will be able to help them find King Leoric's crown, which is needed to wake him up. The crown had been sealed in a tomb by Adrig's grandfather, who was the former chancellor to King Leoric. Chancellor Aemon locked the crown inside his tomb, and in his death guarded it to ensure that Leoric never returned to the world of the living. The heroes defeated Chancellor Aemon's wraith and grabbed the crown. Back in New Tristram, they hand the broken crown over to Adrig, and he repairs it, making it possible for the adventurers to wake the Skeleton King. They enter the cathedral, but before they reach Leoric, and the bottom of the crater left by the falling star, they find and save a Templar known as Cormac. He pledges to help them defeat the Skeleton King in return for any tomes they find along the way. The adventurers accept. They find King Leoric's chamber and place the crown upon the Black King's head. His spirit returns to his body and he attacks the adventurers. The adventurers defeat the Skeleton King and finally put him to rest. They find the bottom of the crater left by the falling star, which, as it turns out, is not a star at all, but a man in rags with no memory of who he is or where he came from. They bring him back to New Tristram to consult with Deckard Cain. The only thing the stranger can remember is that he lost his sword when he fell. Deckard remembers seeing the falling star split into multiple pieces when it fell from the sky, and maybe the other pieces will hold the answers they need to help the stranger. And so, the adventurers had their quest. They would set out and find all 3 pieces of debris that fell from the sky with the stranger and reforge his sword. While on their mission, they encounter a scoundrel known as Lyndon. He's running from the Thieves Guild and decides to join the adventurers. The first piece of the sword was easily recovered, but as the adventurers were about to enter the place where the second piece crashed, they are faced with a test by a ghost of a Nephilim, a child of angels and demons. His name's Alaric, and he challenges the adventurers to perform a few tasks for him, and when they beat his challenges, they were granted access to the Drowned Temple, where the second piece landed. Alaric reappears and tells them that the only way for them to have been able to access the Drowned Temple was if they were, in fact, Nephilim themselves. So, from here on out, I will refer to the adventurers as the Nephilim. Throughout their hunt for the 3 pieces of the sword, they were visited by a witch known as Magda. Magda was a devoted follower of Belial, and she is also after the 3 sword pieces. She arrived just after the Nephilim had gotten the first 2 pieces, beating her to it every time. They return to Deckard Cain and Leah with the first 2 pieces and suddenly see smoke from a nearby village. The third and final piece landed in a village known as Wortham, and before the Nephilim could get there, Magda and her cult, the Coven, had already started to burn the village to the ground. The Nephilim fight their way through the village and reach a small church, where the villagers hid the sword piece. But when they enter the church cellar, they find out that Magda has grabbed all 3 of the sword pieces and is holding Deckard Cain and Leah hostage. The Nephilim rush back to Tristram and enter Deckard Cain's house.
It's your choice, Cain. Either use your Herodric arts to repair the sword, or your dear Leah dies a horrible death.
All this pain, this destruction. What is the sword to you?
To me, nothing. To my master, Belial, everything. Your rage is overwhelming, girl. You win this round, but if the sword cannot be mine, I'll claim the one it's bound to. In the end, the blade shall be mine.
Uncle, you can't die.
Nothing can stop that now. But there is one last thing I must do. The sword must be made whole. Just as I suspected, the sword is of the high heavens. The stranger is an angel. Heed the journal. The truth lies within.
Uncle Deckard!
Deckard Cain is dead. Death by butterflies, no less. And the stranger has been captured by Magda, but she was nice enough to leave the sword with the Nephilim. And Leah's display of power is strangely pushed aside and not really focused on. Just yet. The Nephilim travel to Leoric's old manor to save the stranger, but in order to reach him, they first have to fight a butcher. It was previously believed that the butcher from the Tristram Cathedral was a unique demon. But as it turns out, the butchers are stitched together from the parts of other demons to combine their strengths, then given life through magic. As such, butcher demons see all living and unliving things as mere parts. meaning that the villagers of Tristram that were murdered by the first butcher were not to be its food, but to be body parts for it or parts for a new butcher. After defeating the butcher, the Nephilim finds the stranger and hands him his sword. He grabs the sword and suddenly he's clad in armor and his memories returned. He was Tyrael, the Archangel of Justice, but is now Tyrael the Mortal.
It was all just stories. My uncle saw what he wanted to see.
Deckard sacrificed much to protect this world. But his work is not over.
What would you know about sacrifice?
Tyrael, the ancient law of the high heavens strictly forbids us from interfering with the mortal world. Yet you have done so, brazenly.
All I am guilty of, Imperius, is bringing justice, while you hide, cowering behind your throne.
Silence! You will now answer for your transgressions.
You cannot judge me. I am justice itself. We were meant for more than this. To protect the innocent. But if our precious laws bind you all to inaction, then I will no longer stand as your brother.
You chose to be one of us.
Sacrilege.
Thus, I fell willingly. Because humanity is the only hope for this world.
I never believed all your crazy tales. Your work. You never finished. I will finish it, Uncle. I will carry on for you.
The Nephilim chase after Magda to Caldeum, a city to the east of Tristram in the land of Khajiistan. Kurast used to be the capital of Khajiistan, but after Mephisto destroyed the entire area, they moved to the northern parts of Khajiistan and made Caldeum the new capital. In Caldeum, Tyrael can feel Belial's dark presence, and together with the Nephilim, they go to meet with Emperor Haakon II of Khajiistan. He tells him that a nearby town called Alcarnus had been destroyed and its inhabitants slaughtered. Because of this, Haakon sealed the city, created a new imperial guard, and left the Iron Wolves and their leader Ashera to deal with the growing refugee problem. The Nephilim set out towards Alcarnus as they believe it's the Coven who's behind its destruction. In the desert, they meet an enchantress called Irena. She helps the Nephilim by defeating members of the Coven who are performing dark rituals, hiding the Black Canyon Bridge, which is the only way to reach Alcarnus. The Nephilim arrive at the Kazim outpost, where they are lured into a trap by the Imperial Guard. They remove their veil of deceit and show their true forms. They are serpent demons, followers of Belial. The Nephilim defeat them with ease. They free the Iron Wolves caged within the outpost, whom Magda had captured with the intent of sacrificing to Belial. The Nephilim arrive in Alcarnus and their suspicions are confirmed. The town is crawling with members of the Coven, and in the heart of the town, they will find Magda, Deckard Cain's killer. They free the last remaining townspeople and kill the cultists still lingering in the town, and finally confront Magda and exact final vengeance for Deckard Cain. The Nephilim return to Caldeum and are called upon by the Emperor. His guards have caught Leah sneaking around the sewers beneath the town. Hakan tells the Nephilim that they are accused of being the ones who destroyed Alcarnus and sends his guards after them. They flee together with Leah into the sewers, where Leah reveals that she knows her mother to be alive and also knows where she's being held. They find her and bring her back to the hidden camp outside of Caldeum. Adria explains how the last 20 years have taken her around Sanctuary in search of a way to banish the great evils forever. And because of her mission, she couldn't be there for Leah as she was growing up, and decided to leave her in the care of Deckard Cain. However, those 20 years paid off, as she now knows a way to lock away the great evils. One of the founders of the Horadrim, known as Zoltan Kuhl, a powerful mage, created an item called the Black Soulstone. The Black Soulstone was created to contain many souls at once, even capable of holding all 7 great evils inside it at the same time. A Mega Soulstone, if you will. Zoltan Kuhl himself went mad with power, and as a result, the Horadrim had to hunt him down and sever his body into 2 jars of blood, his head, and his body. In order to find Kuhl's old archives, Adria suggests they revive him. And even though Tyrell protested, it had to be done, since the Black Soulstone might be the only way of defeating the great evils forever. The Nephilim find Zoltan Kuhl's head and bring it back to Adria. She revives the ghost of Zoltan Kuhl, and he agrees to help them to his archives, if the Nephilim gather all of his body parts and bring him back to life. Tyrael and the Nephilim knows that he cannot be trusted, but since there is no other way to get the Black Soulstone, they agree. On their journey to find the jars of blood, they find a jeweler called Covetous Shen, hiding inside a barrel. They help him out of the darkness and back to the hidden camp. The Nephilim and Zoltan Kuhl return to the desert and find both jars of blood. They entered the old archives, and inside, the Nephilim would enter a portal to the Shadow Realm, where they retrieved his body. With the aid of Leah, who had been instructed how to channel her power, they revived Zoltan Kuhl to his physical form. He keeps his word and ushered the Nephilim to his sanctum, the Soulstone Chamber, where the Black Soulstone awaited. To Zoltan's surprise, the Soulstone already contained the souls of some of the Lords of Hell, namely Andariel, Duriel, Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal. It had caught their souls after they were defeated 20 years ago, but before their souls could return to the burning hells and be reborn. Zoltan Kuhl insisted that the Nephilim gave up their quests, and that Adria, Tyrael, and all of their allies would betray them. Together, Zoltan and the Nephilim would rule over all creation. Naturally, the Nephilim refused, and Zoltan Kuhl attacked them. The Nephilim killed Zoltan Kuhl and took the Black Soulstone back to the hidden camp. Belial, hidden inside Caldeum, felt the Black Soulstone's presence and began to rain down fire upon the town. The Nephilim fight their way through Caldeum, and with Leah and Adria's help, they strike down the gates of the palace and confront the Emperor. Hakan asks to see the Black Soulstone, but the Nephilim knew. It didn't take much for them to figure out that Hakan was in fact Belial's mortal host, and that he was manipulating everyone in Kyrgyzstan. Belial commends the Nephilim for their cleverness, and reveals himself, and after sending some of his serpent demons to attack the Nephilim, he decides to take care of it himself. He lashes out at the Nephilim, but after realizing their combined strength, he takes on his true form. He transforms into a giant, monstrous version of himself as the palace breaks apart around the Nephilim. Despite putting up a good fight, he's defeated and imprisoned within the Black Soulstone. As Belial disappears, the palace goes back to normal, making it seem that most of what happened inside the palace was nothing but an illusion. But his defeat was certain.
of this makes any sense to me. What am I missing, Uncle? What am I supposed to see?
Ravaging this world and all hope of resistance. My minions will find the stone, wherever you choose to hide it. Then, at long last, Asmodan shall reign as the prime evil.
Leah, are you all right? Speak to me, child.
Ariad. The demon's invasion will come from Ariad.
Asmodan had big plans for the Black Soulstone. He wanted to consume it, along with all of the great evils locked inside, making him the prime evil. The Nephilim, Tyrael, Adria, Leah, Adrig, Covetous, Cormac, Irena, and Linden leave Caldeum and head for Mount Ariat and Bastion's Keep to fight Asmodan's forces emerging from the mountain. As soon as they arrive at the fortress, Adria's Leah cast a spell on the Black Soulstone to contain and fight the great evils locked inside the stone. Tyrael stayed behind at Bastion's Keep, guarding Leah and Adria, while the Nephilim took it upon themselves to stop Asmodan's forces. They clear the walls and the lower levels of the fortress and finally fight their way towards Ariat. They defeat his general Gom, the Lord of Gluttony, and together with Tyrael they defeat a Siegebreaker. When the Siegebreaker fell, the Nephilim could hear voices in the background, astonished over how they could have defeated such a beast that normally would take over 100 men to kill. Tyrael decides to return to Bastion's Keep, and the Nephilim pushes forward. As they move deeper into the mountain, closer to the mouth of hell, they are taunted by a spider-looking demon. She's the lieutenant and concubine of Asmodan. Her name is Cydia, the Maiden of Lust. The deeper they go, the more agitated Cydia becomes and finally fights the Nephilim, but is easily defeated. The Nephilim had reached Asmodan's lair, and as they entered, he was furious. How could they have defeated all of his forces? How were they strong enough to have made it this far? The Black Soulstone was his, and no one else's. He was to be the prime evil. He was the last of the 7 great evils. How would anyone else be worthy of the honor? The Nephilim attacks Asmodan, and even though he used all traps and soldiers at his disposal, like all the other evils, he fell. Tyrael, Adria, and Leah arrive and seals Asmodan within the Black Soulstone and return to Bastion's Keep. Back in the fortress, the soldiers are celebrating their victory. But Tyrael, Adria, and Leah are nowhere to be seen. One of the guards tells the Nephilim he saw them head towards the armory. The Nephilim enters the armory and are met with nothing but pools of blood. They quickly head towards the watchtower.
Adria, when did you decide to betray us?
20 years ago, a great and terrible power drew me to Tristram. But Aiden, Leoric's eldest son, defeated that power and sought to contain it within his own flesh.
The Dark Wanderer.
It was Diablo I saw within him, and I pledged myself to his service. Now, at last, his grand design comes to fruition. Dear Leah, Deckard always suspected your true father was Diablo himself. And now, my daughter, you shall serve as his vessel.
I live. But I am more than I once was. The 7 evils are now one within me. I am the prime evil. Well done, faithful Adria. Go now, until I call upon you again. Now, at last, to my true goal, the one that has always eluded me. The utter destruction of the high heavens.
Leah's father turns out to be none other than the warrior who once defeated Diablo with the help of a rogue and a sorcerer. And his name was Aiden, son of King Leoric and brother of Albrecht, Diablo's first host. This means that Aiden didn't only return home to Tristram to put his already dead father Leoric back in the grave, but also kill his own brother who had been the host of Diablo. The spell Adria had taught Leah to cast on the Black Soulstone had bound her body to it, all part of Diablo's plan to become the prime evil. Being the daughter of Diablo and his loyal servant Adria, it was always intended for her to become Diablo's future vessel. When all of the 7 evils transferred into her, her mind was shattered, and the only one in control was Diablo. And with its new vessel, Diablo went to the heavens, intent on finishing the great conflict once and for all.
Even in the heart of heaven, angels can still feel fear.
My old enemy. You cannot hide from me, no matter what form you choose to wear. Let your true self be revealed. Diablo. Imperious.
1
When the Nephilim and Tyrael enter the high heavens, they are met by an angered Imperius, the Archangel of Valor and the leader of the Angeris Council. The leader before him was known as Malthael, the Archangel of Wisdom. When the Worldstone was destroyed, Malthael left the heavens to find out more about humanity and the mysteries of life and death, and has not been seen since. Imperius was one of the angels that voted in favor of mankind's destruction, an argument he lost. He blames Tyrael for everything that has happened. If Tyrael hadn't felt the need to involve himself with the troubles of Sanctuary, the heavens would be safe. Tyrael took the accusations hard, and the Nephilim had to push on without Tyrael. They killed legions of demons and moved closer to the Crystal Arch, the heart of heaven and the birthplace of angels. They freed the other angels, Itheriel, the Archangel of Fate, the Lore Keeper of the Angeris Council, and wielder of Talusar, the Scroll of Fate. They also freed Auriel, the Archangel of Hope, the most beloved of all angels, and she who leads the sweet chorus of the high heavens. They reach the Crystal Colonnade, and once again meet Imperius. He warns the Nephilim once again to leave the high heavens, as this is not their fight, and they are not needed. He also threatens to kill them if he ever saw them again. Itheriel and Auriel tell the Nephilim to pay him no mind, and keep pushing toward the Crystal Arch. The Nephilim reunite with Tyrael, now determined to help them defeat Diablo and move closer to their goal. But then, Diablo makes a play no one was expecting. Diablo brought Izual back, Tyrael's former lieutenant, and now is the time for the two of them to fight things out. Izual was once defeated by the Prime Evils and revealed the existence of the Soulstones, and with that knowledge the Prime Evils masterminded their own exile, goading Belial and Asmodan to make a move. Izual was then brought back as a demon to guard the Hellforge 20 years ago, and was defeated by a group of heroes. But now he was back once again, and this time it was all about him and Tyrael. Tyrael, with the help of the Nephilim, defeat Izual for what may be the last time, but who knows. Once they reach the entrance to the Crystal Arch, they once again are faced with Imperius blocking their way. He reiterates how he was going to have to kill them since they were not listening to his multiple warnings. But before he could do anything, Diablo reached the Crystal Arch and started corrupting it. The angels fell to the ground, dying. The Nephilim had to act in order to save heaven and Sanctuary. Tyrael waits outside, since he feels this to be the Nephilim's fight. And even though Cormac, Irena, and Lyndon try to join the Nephilim in the final fight, they're trapped within bone cages and have to be left behind. The Nephilim attacked Diablo with all they had. This was the moment that would either save or doom all of creation. They had to defeat the Prime Evil. Throughout the fight, Diablo blasted fire upon the Nephilim and even brought them to his own realm of terror. However, none of this was enough, since the Nephilim defeated the Prime Evil and cast it out of heaven. As Diablo fell, its physical form disintegrated, and its essence returned to the Black Soulstone.
In the end, it was a mortal heart that saved 2 worlds from ruin and cast down the Prime Evil forever. A new day breaks for both angels and men. For mankind's greatest champion, the Nephilim, rose to confront the darkness that we, in our pride, would not face. My brethren, I will take my place among you once again. but this time as a mortal. Since justice has been met this day, I will now stand as wisdom. On behalf of those who risked all to save us. Forevermore, we shall stand together, angels and men, in the light of this glorious new dawn.
And so ends Diablo 3 Vanilla. The Soulstone is still somewhere in the heavens, and the Angel's new mission is to figure out what to do with it. Adria is still on the loose, Leah is dead, yes! But so is Deckard Cain. Death by butterflies. You have... I don't even want to talk about it. Tyrael is now the aspect of wisdom, taking Malthael's place on the council. The only thing that needs to happen now is for Tyrael to become an angel again, and for Deckard Cain to be revived and become the aspect of justice. As in, justice for all the Diablo players who realize that there is no Diablo game without Deckard Cain. Feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and please tell me, would you want Deckard Cain to come back and Tyrael to become an angel again? And if so, how? I've been Chrane, and I'll see you next time for Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls.